Chapter 26. Once the heaving stopped, I laid down on the bathroom floor, too exhausted to move very far in case the heaving started again. My body ached everywhere, inside and out. I was pretty sure I had some deep bruises on my back and sides from the kicks that jerk gave me and rolling out of the van, plus the angry marks on both wrists. I felt just as rough inside from the heaving of my stomach and the flash of pain that had run through me when I touched Morgan. Whatever was in the drug cocktail they'd used, it was doing a number on me. Whether the strength of the reaction was due to the drugs, or it was a side effect of the mating and being manhandled, I didn't care. I was more than ready for it to end. Devon hovered in the doorway, not wanting to get in my way, but not able to leave me alone either. I understood his reluctance to let me out of his sight. The last time he'd done that, I'd been taken. I knew he wanted to touch me, to come in and hold me, and to reassure himself that I was back and safe, but at the same time he was afraid he would hurt me. The bruises were healing but not as fast as they should have been. "Nick?" Devon said softly. I picked up my head and looked at him. "Can I get you anything? Can you help me to the bed? I'm not sure I can make it on my own." "Of course, let me take care of you for a while." He came into the bathroom and gently picked me up. Normally I'd insist on doing it myself, you know me. I tried to make a joke of it. But right now I just can't. "It's okay. I've got you," he murmured, cradling me easily against his body as he lifted me off the floor. I curled into him, letting his scent wrap around me and comfort me. He carried me out of the oversized bathroom and into bedroom. He carefully laid me on the bed, pulling the sheet and blanket up over my battered body. "We need to get some food into you, but let's give it an hour or two and see if your stomach stays calm first. If you can't eat by then, we'll have to see about an IV to replace some of the fluids and nutrients you've lost. I'll try to eat in a while, but I'm not going to worry about it now." I burrowed into the bed, trying to get warm. "Come lay with me." "Sure, give me a minute to check with Caden and I'll be right there." He went into the main room of the suite, but left the door open. I heard the rumble of his voice and Caden's for a couple minutes before he reappeared. He took off his shoes and pulled his t-shirt off over his head, but left his jeans on. Before sliding into bed behind me, he curled around me and held me gently. I moved until my head was resting on his arm as he held me. The feel of his strong arms around me was comforting. The contact of his skin against mine made me feel better, as if my injuries were more distant, more healed. I closed my eyes and tried to relax, to let my body heal itself. I must have drifted off to sleep because the next thing I knew, Devon was calling my name and stroking my face. I opened my eyes and looked up into his concerned face. "It's all right, Nickie. I'm right here with you," he was saying. "I know you are," I said. "Is something wrong?" "You were dreaming. You started struggling, fighting me and calling my name." "I don't remember any of it." I shook my head, confused. "It's probably better that you don't." He continued to pet my face and neck. "How do you feel?" "Better some." "You ready to try to eat something? Or at least drink something?" "What do you have in mind?" Alexis suggested we start with a little bit of one of those shakes you drink. I thought about that for a second, waiting for my stomach to rebel at the idea. When it didn't churn and protest, I agreed. Devon got up and got one from the small fridge in the other room. I pushed myself up until I sat in the middle of the bed and took the small can from him. I tried to pop it open, but found that I didn't have enough strength. "Can you get this?" I held the can toward him. He took it only long enough to pop the top before handing it back. I tipped the can back and took a few sips. "Not too much," he cautioned. "We want to make sure you hold it down, not lose even more fluids." I nodded and I lowered the can to rest in my lap, waiting to see what my stomach would do. I held the can out, he took it from me and set it on the nightstand before sliding back onto the bed beside me. I leaned back against him, letting him take my weight as I waited for my body to accept or refuse the thick liquid. Devon held me close, careful of my bruised and battered body. I couldn't get enough of his touch, of his skin against mine. I lay in his arms, absorbing his warmth and his gentleness. I wish I could give you the strength you need, the energy to heal faster. He murmured into my hair. Wouldn't that be nice? I could do it if we sealed our mating. Maybe, I replied. From what Alexis told me, it's not certain. You might be able to, or you might not. That's probably true. He sighed. I just want to stop you from hurting. I know you do, and I appreciate it. I lay quietly for a few minutes before speaking again. Can you hand me that can back? I'd like to drink a little more. I felt Devon twist his body to grab the can before he placed it in my hand. I took a few more sips, resting my hand and the can on his leg in between sips as I slowly finished the shake. After handing him the empty can back, I curled against him, letting him lift me onto his lap, so I rested on his chest as he leaned against the headboard. If you didn't have to move us to go get it, I'd drink another of those, I said, unwilling to let him get up even to get me food. Devon picked up his PCD from the nightstand beside him and tapped something onto the screen before laying it back down again without a word. Moments later, a soft knock sounded on the door. It's open, Devon said. I looked across the room to see Alexis step in, shaking a can in one hand, Caden close behind. Did you want this? She asked, holding a can toward me. I took the can, and as I pulled it closer, Devon laid his hand over the top and popped the tab, opening it for me without a word. I took a few sips and rested the can the bed beside us. What happened with the Aniquitos and the healer after I ran? I asked. Not a whole lot. I talked to Morgan for a few minutes, they offered again to get us anything we need, and then they left. She sat on the edge of the bed near where my feet lay under the blankets. What was it the two of you saw? I asked. I never would have thought to check you without you touching Devon, so it's really Morgan's find. What is it? I asked again. The two of you have something going on that you shouldn't, at least not now. You mean other than Devon knowing something was wrong? Yeah, other than that. You seem to be siphoning energy off him any time he touches you. I thought only sealed mates could do that. Mostly that's true. There are a few who have the ability to loan and borrow energy as a talent, but those who have the talent don't usually have to touch someone, and I think we would have discovered by now if you had that talent. So what does it mean? I asked. I don't know really, but you feel better when he touches you, don't you? And the more skin-to-skin contact you have, the better you feel? I nodded. Yeah. That's because the more contact you have with him, the more energy you gain from him. It won't hurt him, will it? I asked, concerned for Devon. No. He'll eat more, burn more calories, almost as if he were healing himself, but it won't hurt him. She explained. All right, what now? Well, you'll heal the physical injuries faster if you shift. Honestly, I don't have the strength. I don't know if I could even make it to the bathroom on my own right now. That's the advantage of our talent, Alexis said. I can call your wolf for you if you'd like. I thought for a second, if I let her shift me, it would go a long ways toward healing my injuries. I'll be even weaker than I am now, I said. Yes and no, you'll be weak, yes, but you'll be hungry. You should have no trouble eating once you've shifted. Do we have anything to eat? Alexis turned and looked at Caden. We have some, he said. But not enough. Let me call room service, and once it gets here you can shift her. She's going to need an awful lot, can't you just go get it? Alexis said. Nope. No one goes anywhere alone, not anymore. He turned and headed back into the front room. A few seconds later, he reappeared carrying a binder with the hotel logo on the front. Here. There are some menus in there for places that deliver. We'll order some from room service, then from somewhere else. That way it's not a really large order that will draw attention. He handed the book to Alexis, who flipped through it to find the menus. We have American, Italian, and Chinese. She looked up for my input. Just make it easy and order pizza. No one will think anything of delivering 2, 3, or even 4 pizzas to a suite this size. I said. You have a point. She agreed. What kind do you want? Extra large spinach and mushroom for her, meat lovers for me. Devon said, his arms still around me. Use the card in my wallet to pay for them. He nodded toward the dresser where his wallet sat. Don't worry about that. Alexis turned back to Caden. You know what I like, charge it to the pack. Caden took the folder and went into the other room. I could hear the bass of his voice as he placed the orders. Now, shifting won't completely heal you. I want you to be prepared for that. She warned. I know, but if we can get me past this too hurt and weak to eat or think part, I think I can more easily handle the healing on my own. I said. She nodded. Good. Do you want to know the extent of your injuries? Why not? We have a while until the food gets here and you shift me. It's really not a long list, but some of them are a bit severe. You fractured the radius in both arms. You're lucky though, and they aren't misaligned. They'll heal fine without any added pain. I knew when I decided to break loose that I was risking breaking my wrists. I felt Devon's arms tense around me. She nodded, continuing. You have a couple of cracked ribs and some bruising on your side and back from that asshole's boots and hitting the pavement. The most obvious of all your injuries are these bruises on your wrists. They go all the way to the bone, and they're probably going to take at least a few days to heal. The cuts and scrapes should heal pretty quickly once you shift and have eaten. The strangest part is that you haven't metabolized all of the tranquilizer yet. There's still some of it in your system, which I'm sure only makes things worse. It certainly doesn't help. I wasn't sure what else to say. I'll go check on the food, you rest some more, I'll come back when it's time for you to shift. Do we have any more of those shakes? I asked. She nodded. I'll bring you one. She stood and went for the drink, returning only a few seconds later, shaking the small can before giving it to me. Here you are. She gave me the drink and left again, pulling the door nearly closed on her way out. I held the can so Devon could open it. He popped the top and I slowly drank the thick liquid, so hungry I didn't even notice the taste I don't usually care for. I handed the empty can to Devon and leaned back against him, thankful for the energy I was siphoning from him, but feeling guilty about it at the same time. I've always been more than a little independent, and not being able to even open a can on my own now rankled more than a little. I dozed while I waited, conserving as much energy as I could. I lost track of time, and before I knew it, Alexis knocked softly on the door and pushed it open. You ready to shift? She asked cheerfully. I guess so. I pushed away from Devon until I sat under my own power. Do you want to take your clothes off first? Nah. I'm gonna throw them out anyway, why waste energy taking them off? All right, if you're ready, we can do this. I nodded. She held out her hands, keeping them a few inches above my skin, and I soon felt the tingling all over my skin that meant the shift was coming. Muscles and bones shifted and popped beneath my skin, and it was all I could do not to cry out with the unexpected pain of it. Shifting didn't usually hurt like this. After a few seconds, the shifting and stinging stopped. Alexis let her hands fall to her sides and looked down at me. Are you all right? Ouch. I thought in her direction. I'm sorry. Sometimes it hurts more to be shifted, especially when you're as weak as you are right now. It's like your wolf fights the change, sort of. And I'm sure the broken and cracked bones didn't help. She explained, giving me a couple of minutes to rest before she shifted me again. I felt the bed shift and turned to find Devon climbing out of the bed. "What's up?" I sent to him. "You're gonna need to get dressed before you can eat, so I thought I'd get you some clothes." "Thanks," I turned back to Alexis. "Let's get it done, I'm hungry." "That's good." She laughed. "You ready?" I nodded my head as she once again held her hands toward me. The shift didn't hurt as bad this time. I don't know if I was more healed or just more prepared for it. It seemed like only an instant had passed when the tingling faded again. "All right." Alexis let her hands drop to her sides. "Get dressed and come eat. I'll take another look at you after you've had some food." She went into the main room, closing the door behind her. Devon laid clothes on the bed beside me and helped me get dressed. Even without a shower, I felt better with clean clothes on, less weak and wounded, but I was starving and eager to get something to eat. I went into the main room of the suite, and the smell of food made my stomach rumble and growl. "That's not pizza I smell," I inhaled again. "Or not only pizza." "No, it's not," Caden said. "Your preferred pizza doesn't have enough protein to support the healing or the shifting, so I called room service and ordered a couple of steaks too." The scent of the steaks made my mouth water. "Good thinking. Can I have one of those first?" "You can have them both. You need to give your body the energy to heal." I nodded and made my way to the large table in the dining area. Sitting, I planned to rest a moment before serving myself. I hated the weakness that had taken over my body. "You don't have to do that," I said when Devon slid a plate in front of me. "I was going to rest just a minute and then get it." "No need." He lifted the silver cover off the plate, revealing a medium-sized steak, baked potato, and a side of broccoli that looked only slightly overcooked. He put a set of silverware beside the plate and started opening pizza boxes, looking for his. Alexis brought a stack of paper plates to the table and gave one to Devon. I cut into the steak in front of me and started eating, groaning in appreciation when the first bite hit my tongue. In just seconds, I'd devoured the entire steak and sat looking down at the plate in front of me, wishing there were more. "Nickie?" Devon asked, his voice loud, as if he'd had to raise it to get my attention. I looked up to find everyone sitting at the table eating. Somehow, in my focus on the steak, I'd missed that everyone else was eating too. "Do you want the other steak, or are you gonna eat that stuff first?" he asked. I looked down at my plate, not finding what was left very appetizing. There wasn't anything wrong with it, it just wasn't what my body wanted and needed. "The other steak sounds great." I looked back up at Devon with a vague smile as I pushed the plate with the vegetables to one side. He slid another covered plate across the table, bringing it to a stop in front of me. He lifted the cover off and set it on top of the other. I dug into the fresh steak with the same enthusiasm, but slightly less single-mindedness. Caden, Alexis, and Devon continued their discussion. Bridges said they'd let us know if they find anything. My vote is that we stay put for a couple of days, let her heal, then we continue with our original plan. We have to wait a few days anyway to let Reese decide if he wants to try this. While he makes up his mind, we see if Ridges can find whoever hired those thugs to kidnap Nickie. Alexis said. "I still want to find them now," Devon argued. "Are you willing to leave her to do it?" Caden asked, his voice calm and dispassionate. Devon shook his head. "No. As much as I want to make them pay for what they've done, I can't do that." I realized that they'd been talking for a while, and I just hadn't registered it. I spoke up, changing the subject. "You said Morgan found that I leached strength from Devon. Is that all the two of you found?" "Not exactly," she said reluctantly. "What else did you find?" Devon asked. That's the thing, it's hard to explain. I don't know what it is, but the way your system functions changes when Devon touches you. I've never encountered it before, either had Morgan. So what now? I wanted to know. Now we continue to feed you and let you rest, heal. She said simply. Know about what you found? I said. Oh, Alexis said. Now nothing. Whatever it is, it's not hurting you, so we don't do anything. I'd like to know what it is, but if you say so. I popped the last bite of the second steak into my mouth. I pushed the plate off to the side and with my mouth still full, I pointed to the last pizza box, the one no one was eating from. Devon picked up a paper plate and opened the box. One slice or two? I held up a single finger, and he put a slice of pizza on the plate before handing it to me. Thanks, I said after swallowing the mouthful. We chatted about anything but what had happened that morning while we finished eating. When we'd finished, Devon helped me take a shower, then he put me back to bed, laying down beside me. He turned on the screen that had been disguised as a painting hanging on the wall at the foot of the bed. He found an old movie to distract us while we let my body work on healing.